Sinibingelele babukeli emakhaya ehlelweni lethu lelithi Let Us Talk HIV Prevention in the Last Mile of Ending HIV and AIDS. My name is Nonhlanhla Twala, and in our last episode we were discussing about HIV prevention, and today in our episode we are going to be digging even more deeper because we are going to be looking at HIV prevention modalities. But luckily in our program we do have our experts and we do have Dr. Bongani Masango, who is from the Ministry of Health and he happens to be the National HIV Prevention Coordinator. We also do have Mr. Mazwi Mavuso, who is also the National HIV Prevention Manager at NECHA.
Thank you very much, Nonhlanhla, and greetings to yourself, greetings to our wonderful viewers at home and to our audience, our adolescent girls and young women. We're excited to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Nonhlanhla, and greetings to our viewers at home. Greetings to the audience, the very beautiful audience in front of us. Thank you so much for having us, and I hope, and also pray that we are going to give you all that you need and want.
Discussion Forum is organized by Nature and partners, and this follows a study that was conducted, and it shows that new HIV infections are on a rise in adolescent girls as well as young women. So we do have our audience who happens to be our beautiful adolescent girls as well as young women, and I'm going to be giving them an opportunity to greet our viewers at home with a beautiful wide smile. Ngitawucela nje kuqale ngibuze umbuzo wekuqala director kuwe dokotela ngitawubuza nje about a combination HIV prevention ukuthi yini longasitshela kona ngaloko.
Thank you so much, Nonhlanhla. When we talk about combination prevention, we are saying there's not only one intervention that can work. They work as a combination. So it looks at three things. It looks at structural prevention, and then there's also biomedical, and then there's non-biomedical. When we're talking of the structural, we are talking of your policies, because there have to be policies that make it that makes the environment playable so that everyone can work and be able to access services and other things. We have to look at key populations. What are we saying with key populations? So we have policies on the structural. We also have what we call the non-biomedical. The non-biomedical are your behavioral ones, the ones where we're talking about abstinence, we're talking about faithfulness, we're talking about condom use and other things. And then on the biomedical one now, it's where we are talking of your voluntary medical male circumcision. We are talking of your pre-exposure prophylaxis, post-exposure prophylaxis. We are also talking what other like your treatment for prevention. That is what we call U is equal U. That is people who adhere to treatment, they then prevent infecting others. So in a nutshell, that's what we are talking about when we are talking about combination prevention.
Sibonga kakhulu singaqala kuva kuwe ke Ncele about naku lekuthiwa ngema biomedical modalities wena ungathini ngaloko vele.
For this opportunity. Yes, you are very correct. So I will just scan through quite a number that we have available in the public health institutions that are being driven by the Kingdom of Eswatini. So we have your pre-exposure prophylaxis. We also have your post-exposure prophylaxis, as articulated well by Dr. Masango. We have your prevention of mother-to-child transmission, which we call PMTCT, your treatment as prevention, and Dr. Masango has contextualized it correctly to say U is equals to U, and that simply says undetectable is equals to untransmissible, because we know that viral load is a good predictor of HIV transmission. So the higher the viral load, the higher the chances that you are going to infect the next person. So we are saying if you are living with HIV, take ARV so that you become suppressed. And if you happen to have sex that is probably even unprotected, you are less likely to pass the virus to the next person. Of course, your voluntary medical male circumcision, and I'm sitting here with the champion of EMMC, Dr. Masango himself. All those form part of the biomedical interventions that we have available in the country.
This is our program, Let Us Talk HIV in the last mile of ending HIV and AIDS, and we also have our audience lengifisile kuva kibo ukuthi engabe bona ngeku-understanda kwabo yini lesebayati nje ikakhulukati ngato letindlela te-science lekubonakala ukuthi itindlela tekuvikela tona-ke ligciwane. Ngidakuva kiyo nje i-audience yethu ukuthi yini lesebakwati sebayati yini ngabo-PrEP, sebayati yini ngabo-PEP.
Nginivusele babukele emakhaya ligama lami ngingimele kuhle ngikhambule. Lengo understandayo ukuthi i-PrEP i-pre-exposure prophylaxis whereby ngileli philisi silinatha before you're exposed ku-HIV. Then bese kuba ne-PEP which is post-exposure prophylaxis, leli philisi silinatha after so be exposed.
Nginibingelele babukela emakhaya ngidacela kungeda ngalo PrEP nalo PEP. Okay, i-PrEP uyinatha yona 7 days before ube exposed. Then i-PEP yona uyinatha for 28 days after sobe exposed ku-HIV.
Sibonga kakhulu kibo bamflabasha, kuyabonakala ukuthi ngathi banako lokuconza, kepha ke ngeke bakhulumele. Ngicela kuva kuwe dokotela ukuthi engabe bateka yona imvelela bamflabasha.
Oh, okay, but yona, I think it's correct. There is PrEP, there is PEP. We usually call it PEP. That is the post-exposure prophylaxis. So when do you take the post-exposure prophylaxis? This is a treatment that you take immediately after you've been exposed to HIV. So we are saying you have to come to the facility or wherever you can access PEP. Before kuphele 72 hours ube exposed. Lokusho ukuthi kusebenta njengekufanana ne-morning after pill, that is you are saying uta esibhedlela or anywhere else within 72 hours, and then you continue taking that treatment or that particular tablet for 28 days. And then the pre-exposure prophylaxis, that one is before you become exposed. That is pre-exposure. Pre meaning before you become exposed. Then it's divided into, we have different modes of PrEP. We have what you call the daily PrEP. We have what you call the event-driven PrEP, and then it has got different audiences. And then we also have what we are piloting now, which is called the ring. There is also injectable PrEP. So we have different modes, but what we currently have as a country now, it's the two. It's the event-driven and the daily PrEP. What is the event driven? This one is mostly it's done, the eligibility criteria, it's for males, because when we were doing the studies we've seen that it is not quite working well with females, especially those with of reproductive age. So the event driven is you take it 2 to 24 hours before you engage in sexual intercourse or before you become exposed to HIV. And then if the exposure will last for a day, and then you will continue taking it 2 days after, and then you stop taking it. But the daily PrEP, it's what they were saying, that one, it's the one that you are taking it daily as long as you are exposed.
Dokotela, it has been noted that new HIV infections are on a rise in adolescent girls as well as young women, and the question is why. So ngidacela kubuza nje kuwe Ncele ukuthi engabe ngekubuka kwenu kulula yini vele noma nanibuka nini labantu labasha bemantombazana nabomakela basesebancane ba comfortable yini ukuthi bangahamba bayothola lelo sito lolufana njengalolu?
Well, that's a very important question, Nonhlanhla, particularly at this time and the nature of the epidemic in the Kingdom of Eswatini, because our population, particularly our young women and adolescents, are facing quite a number of issues when it comes to access of services. When we started this program, we actually quoted a study that was led by the Minister of Health. It's actually called SHIMS, which is called Swaziland HIV Measurement Incidence Survey. And what it exposed, part of which was the issue of inequalities, particularly inequalities of access to services, particularly for adolescent girls and young women. And the question is, why so? Why them? I think it's quite really a number of issues when you look at how HIV is being spread in the country. Everyone can agree that we are seeing a common pattern to say it's largely driven by the socio-economic context of the country, where, because of our vulnerabilities, we find ourselves exposed. You are going to agree with me, Nonhlanhla, in the audience, that for the longest time, our HIV prevention programs have largely concentrated on mitigating risk. When you provide the PrEP, the PEP, all those, they are mitigating the risk. But to some extent, we have neglected mitigating vulnerabilities. To say, once they've given me PrEP, once they've given me a condom, what if I'm hungry? And then a blesser is going to come and say, I want it without a condom. Let's have it. You see, so I think we are at a time now where we must, Dr. Masang was saying earlier on, combination HIV prevention. And what it means is, in as much as I'm going to take your PrEP, but also look into in terms of saying, am I hungry? If I'm a student, for example, at varsity, government takes probably 8 months to give my personal allowance, and I'm hungry. I need to print some documents, and the Mazuma also comes and say, no, let's have it unprotected. I'm going to buy you supper. As cheap as that, an adolescent girl and a young woman is just exposed. So I think we're at a critical time of the epidemic where we must also deal with vulnerabilities.
Siyabonga kakhulu Ncele, and lapha ke ehlelweni lethu namuhla sikhuluma ngayo i-HIV prevention modalities lekungito ke tindlela tekuvikela lona ke leli gciwane. Uchazile ke dokotela ngokuthi ke kuhlukana kanjani. Nancele eceleni kwami who happens to be the National HIV Prevention Manager at Nature, naye ke so uchazile. Kepha ke nami ngisafuna kutivela kibo labamfu labasha ukuthi ba comfortable yini vele bona ukuthi bangahamba bayothola lama services ekuvikela lona ke leli gciwane.
Ngelele babukeli emakhaya. Lengakusho nje ukuthi sibamfula abasha, especially as young women, asikho comfortable sometimes because sibane ukuthi nase bangibona lapha esibhedlela ngithathe ama condom batothini bamfula abadzala, or sengiyachamuka ku partner wami ngichamuka ngiphethe leyo condom utongithatha kanjani as intombatana. Kunale stigma leso nje ukuthi what is the community going to say about lokho lengitakwenda? Yabonga.
Okay, sibonge kakhulu. Namhlanje sifuna lokugcizelela ikakhulukati kulendzaba yalabo PrEP, yalendzaba lesikhuluma ngayo letindlela tekuvikela lona ke leli gciwane, njengoba bachazile ukuthi kunetindzaba lekuthiwa biomedical letfaka ekhathi bona labo PrEP. So ngifuna kuva kakhulu njenga kulelo hlangothi kini ukuthi let us say nako sekupossible senikhonile kuwathola lawo maphilisi. Kulula yini ukuthi ningawathatha la maphilisi? Anisabi yini emakhaya? Nifunekena niwafihle lebo partner wenu or whatsoever yini lelingayisho nje mayelana nalelo hlangothi lelo?
Ngidawuthi mina ngikubuka kwami kulikhona ukuthi sibani labasha siwathatha la maphilisi. Say ngiyawathatha amaphilisi, ngiyahamba okay ngikhonile kwathatha e-clinic. Sengibekise because e-clinic ngeke kulungelo lami ukuthi ngifole ngibe ne-access to medication. So bayanginiketa e-clinic amaphilisi, ngiyawathatha amaphilisi ngiwabeka edraweni. Sengihamba ngesikolweni uyasalama kuyaclean so uyathola. So kulikhuni ukuthi ngidawuthi nase watholile make bese ngiyachaza ukuthi maphilisi kulikhuni nje because utaba nekutibuta ukuthi wena soyalala wena. Nje utaba nalo ngavisisi kahle kumtali.
Sanibonani emakhaya. Ngifuna kufakazela siswelile embi kwami ukuthi vele kulikhuni kulamaphilisi ungabe utogcina khona invele umjovo wakho.
Okay, sibonga kakhulu sisi. Ngeke ngeva nje kungazuthi la kule PrEP kunengi lokwentiwa ngicela nje udirector lombuto lona ngiudirector kuwe dokotela. Ungathi akusiwo lamaphilisi kuphela, ngathi kunalokunye ungakusichazele nje dokotela ukuthi kukhona yini lokunye njengoba bayasho phela abamfula abasha ukuthi ungathi kunebulukhunyana bekunatha lamaphilisi bato babone emakhaya.
Okay, thank you once again Nonhlanhla. Kunengi lesikwendawo. Maybe umuntu akaqale abuke the characteristics of the infections there's now utsini lakangwane. Nasibuka the characteristics of the infections among adolescent girls and young women. Angisho masikhuluma ngabo sikhuluma ngade 15 to 24 angisho. So when you look at the 15 to 24 and then when you look at their partners, so we are expecting would say their partners be the boys 15 to 24. The HIV prevalence and incidence there, it's very low. But with the adolescent girls 15 to 24, the prevalence hasn't been going down for the past 5 years. And then basically so on the other side now with men. The men we are talking about, it's your 25 to 34. So your 25 to 34, who was this men? Those are the men that Sabatanza Ktetsa University, you understand? Noma Basese University. These are the guys that they've just started working. They are educated. They've just started working. They are thriving. Your one series, your Vrupa, you understand what I'm saying? So these are those that they still don't have responsibilities. Maybe they don't have kids or something, you know. So they are the ones that are coming back now to have relationships with this one. So what is driving HIV is transactional sex. HIV is driving. So with PrEP now, we are saying we need to, PrEP shouldn't go alone. PrEP should go with a condom, because even if you take PrEP, you are still going to get STIs. You are still going to be pregnant. So we need to talk the combination prevention that we're talking about. And then PrEP, what I was talking about PrEP is that it's divided into, we have different types of PrEP, but currently we have the two. The others, the injectable one, is still in pilot stages, or we are still going to adopt and implement as a country. Because I remember we were doing the pilot as a country. We were one of the countries that were chosen to do the study. I think FLAS was one of our implementing partners. But then now that we have the results, we are still waiting for the country to adopt, and then we start implementing. But what we have now is the event-driven, that I said, it's for men. And then we also have the daily PrEP for you guys.
Thank you very much, Dokotela. Ngicela kuva kuwe Ncele, ngike ngeva ukuthi kungathi kukhulunywa ngetindzaba ukuthi there is something that you can be able to insert lapha kusisi. Yini lokho i-PrEP noma i-PEP nekokuthi ngabe khamba njani kulelo hlangothi lo, because ngicabanga ukuthi abantu kufuneke babe nayo le understanding noma lokuconza ukuthi kuningi kukhona nalokunye lokuqesha ekhambelane noma kungene ngaphasi kwayo le PrEP noma leyo PEP.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Once again, that's another PrEP modality. As Dr. Masang has just explained, that we have different modalities of PrEP. So that one is called the dapivirine vaginal ring. And dapivirine is an ARV. It's just one of the classes under what they call BOSAM with young people, non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors. So how it works, that's just a silicone ring, and the ARV is within the silicone ring, so it gets inserted into the vagina, and then it releases the ARV slowly into the vagina over a period of 1 month, and then after 1 month it can be removed and another one inserted. But what is important to mention is it acts locally. That is to say, if you then decide to have anal sex or oral sex or any other type of sex outside of the vagina, it will not confer any form of prevention. So it only acts locally. It's also still under pilot. Once again, I think it's important to mention that partners of the Ministry of Health in Shisselweni, for example, our partner called MSF has actually gone some stages piloting it. It's also coming in the north, the whole region. It will be led by our partner FHI 360, and they'll also be rolling it out in some pilot sites. They include quite a number of sites in Tlokolwako, Mochane, Mbabane. So what it means, if you are a young person interested within those geographic locations, you can actually access as part of the pilot.
I think this is very interesting following that labantu labasha bachazile ukuthi ngazuthi bayisaba indzaba yemaphilisi sethembe ukuthi nani ke sentivele ukuthi khona letinye tindlela ngabe niloko ngibona ngazuthi kutoba ngcono yini kini, but I'm going to give you guys an opportunity ukuthi sen connect ibutele ama questions kuye Dokotela lapha eceleni kwami noma nibute Mr Mavuso nibute Mr Ncele la eceleni kwami. Ma questions lengafisa nje kubabuta wona nokuthi nichaze kuphela ngalendzaba yale vaginal final ring ukuthi nibona ngazuthi ingcono yini yona kunemaphilisi. Ngidaliniketa nje le opportunity ukuthi senipose lawo ma questions.
La kubuta since nithi lama PrEP kufana nje ngema ARVs. So ngicela kubuta nangabe mhlambe imtholampilo wami ukhashani ngathi khona nikuthatha amaphilisi ARVs nginathe wona instead of the PrEP.
That's an exciting question, Nonhlanhla, from our audience. Of course, one thing to explain first is it is correct that all these are ARVs. And let me separate the two, because when you talk about PrEP, we're only talking about two drugs that are there, which will be your tenofovir and your lamivudine. And when you talk about PEP, it's now three drugs. It will be your tenofovir, lamivudine, and dolutegravir. So the question is, if I am HIV positive, can I then use these ones? We really do not encourage that kind of an approach because, number one, at the time when you're starting your ARVs, there will be samples that will be taken from your system against which we will look at your susceptibility to the drugs, which drugs are going to work well for you. Remember that ARVs are demarcated into different classes. Actually, we have 2 lines for adults and we also have the 3rd line for children. Unfortunately, currently only available at Baylor, our center of excellence in the country. So we don't encourage that. So the first thing is, can it work for you? Yes, if you are on ARVs, you are HIV positive, you think of taking the PEP drug, it is still ARVs, and there are still three drugs there in the system which can work for you if you are also taking that same line. We totally discourage it though, because of the fact that when you are assigned ARVs from the beginning, they are aligned to your system. Because you've taken your liver enzymes, you've taken your kidney bloods to determine which one will work best for you.
Ngisacela kubuza mina kuwe dokotela ukuthi are there any possible interactions nangabe usebenzisa le PrEP, maybe interact nalokunye ngabekisa nje ngetindlela zokuhlela umndeni ukuthi kuba bede leyo interaction ukuthi phela sekwaba nabo sihlasela amafutha for everyone kunetimvo lesinathako and ya detoxa almost everything emtimbeni nakusebenziswa le PrEP akubese insect detoxeka everything athi umuntu ungaze ngithathana ngokuvikela but akasebenzi because I was taking something else for lokunye.
Thank you so much. Maybe to explain more on PrEP, we need to say you don't just take PrEP. For you to take PrEP, there are things that there's an eligibility criteria, and then there's a process that you have to follow for you to take PrEP. For example, you need to know your HIV status. When you are taking PrEP, you need to know your HIV status, and you need to be negative at that time when you are taking PrEP. And again, you need to come back maybe after a month for us again to see if you are still HIV negative. Then if we find that you are still HIV negative, then you will continue with PrEP, because sometimes you will find that we might give you PrEP while you are on window period. So that when you come back, we'll find that. So if you take the PrEP, or you know the drugs that we use, and then you take them at home, maybe you find that someone has the drugs and then you are taking them. What if you are taking the drugs and you are HIV positive? Because you haven't tested, you don't know your HIV status, but you are now taking the drug from someone else. And then, so if you do that, what if you are HIV positive? And then there will be a problem now when we are now initiating you on treatment, HIV positive treatment. Then there will be a problem. Then you'll hear people talking about now the drugs are not working and stuff. It's because you were taking PrEP while you were already HIV positive. So that's the interaction that might be there, or the negative part of taking PrEP if you haven't tested for HIV. And then with other family planning methods and that, it has been tested to say it does not interfere with much of, I may not know the other detoxing herbs or other things that people are taking, because people are taking a lot of things. But then one of the things that we need to know is if you take herbs and then you are also on treatment, not just PrEP, but other treatment that you may be in, everything is going to your liver. It's being worked in the liver. So you are doing what? You are putting your liver under pressure. So you might have problems, and you are going to say it's because of PrEP or it's because of the treatment you are taking, while it's not because of that. It's because of the other things you are taking at the site. So when you go to the facility to talk or to take PrEP, we have counseling sessions. We talk to you, we test, we do a lot of things before we say now you are eligible for PrEP, and we initiate PrEP.
Siyabonga kakhulu Dokotela. This is our program. It is Let Us Talk HIV, in the last mile of ending HIV and AIDS. Sinawo experts fulana, one from the Ministry of Health and one from Nature, and we also do have our audience. Ndoba phinze ngiqhubeke nje ngibaniketela ithuba lokuthi ba connect ibutela ama questions labanga director kuye Dokotela kanye naye babe from Nature.
Sanibonani babukela emakhaya. My question is it humanly possible for ukuthi usebenzise the silicone contraceptive ring as well as the PrEP silicone ring now, like at the same time?
Thank you very much for this question. So earlier on when we started, Dr. Masango explained combination HIV prevention. So if I hear the question, you are saying, is it possible to take the dapivirine ring and the routine PrEP, right? The ring and the ring.
The first ring is for the PrEP, and then the second one is for birth control, as in it's the contraceptive. At the same time, though.
I get the question. No, that should not. Remember, these serve different purposes. So the dapivirine ring is for HIV prevention, and I guess the other ring are referring to the loop, and it's not a ring, by the way. The loop is not a ring, so that's the difference. So how it works, the loop, it gets into the uterus and then it closes the os of the uterus. That is to say, then it will be preventing or blocking the sperm from navigating to meet your ovules for fertilization to occur, right? So now it serves different purposes. So it's possible to use both of them because they are not located at the same place within your biological sphere. So you can use both of them, and they serve different purposes. And in terms of interaction, as Dr. has explained, there is not much documented currently to say if you use this one, it can then interfere with the other one in terms of their absorption. One other critical factor when you talk about these drugs that we take is what we call in the health sector biomedical availability of the drug. So what we are saying is, for how long is it going to be available in the system before you can insert the next one? That's a very important consideration that clinicians and health workers are going to take and are going to advise you accordingly. That is why we are saying with the issue of ARVs, it's always very important to take them timely. Time is very important with ARVs. If you take it 7, then it must be 7 all the time, even if it's PrEP or PP, because once you forget by an hour or 2 hours, you take it 9, then you are giving a chance to the virus to replicate itself in the presence of a suboptimal level of the drug, and it results to resistance, which is what Dr. Masan was explaining.
Siyabonga kakhulu Ncele, ngicela kubuya kuye Dokotela nje sesitophetha lona hlelo lethu. Nangabe ikhona yini information longafisa nje kuyi-emphasize ngesikhathi nje lesifishane ukuthi engabe vele bantfu labasha, more especially the adolescent girls and young women, yini lokumcoka lenibona ngazuthi kumele bakwende nelitiko letempilo kuze kupreventeke lona leligciwane le-HIV?
Okay, thank you so much, Nonhlanhla. I think we've come to understand that there is nothing for the adolescent girls and young women without them. So we want to hear from them what more can we do as a Minister of Health? How can we structure our health interventions, our HIV interventions? Why am I saying that? Is because we've seen the past 5 years, the past 10 years, they are getting HIV. And they are continue getting HIV. And once they get HIV, what is a problem with them is that they don't even adhere to treatment. They are not suppressed. They are not virally suppressed. So they are getting HIV. And then once we identify them, it's difficult even to identify them because they don't come for the HIV testing. And then once we try and once we identify them, they get to treatment, but they are not suppressed, which means they are not adhering to treatment. So what more can we do? How can we structure our interventions, adolescent girls and young women? If you can come up with strategies that will suit you, the strategies that you think can suit you, then as a Minister of Health, we don't have a choice. We can implement those strategies.
Siyabonga kakhulu, and that brings us to the end of our program for the day. Besinawo ke my guest ethu, besinayo Mr. Bongani Masango, who's Dr. Bongani Masango from the Ministry of Health, and we also have Mr. Mazwi Mavuso, who is the National HIV Prevention Manager. And later they khona ke ne-audience yethu lana bamfula basha labahle kakhulu, adolescent girls as well as young women. Sibonge kakhulu ke bonke labahlanganyele nathi ehlelweni lethu Let Us Talk HIV in the last mile of ending HIV and AIDS. Do catch us again on another episode. Ngale kwaloko mina Nonhlanhla Thwala nalo lonke libandla lebelinilungiselele lihlelo sasinifisela lokuhle kodwa. Nisaleni kahle.